I was working on Little Fires Everywhere, and Stephen Love reached out to me to say there was a project he wanted to talk about. I was like crazy busy acting in and producing that series, but he came to set and sat with me in my trailer at lunch, and he pitched me this phenomenal idea, and then left the script with me and said, "Tell me what you think." And I loved it. It was entirely unique, and yet also reminded me of some of my favorite action films, you know? So I just thought, this is it. This is something I have to say yes to, even though I've never done anything like this before. There were so many things that stood out to me in the script. Primarily, I really love the relationship. I love this idea of Black family, Black love. I love this kind of modern take on gender roles, right? That you had a dad who was doing the primary parenting and a mother who was out there kind of bringing home the bacon or the corpses, maybe in this this project. I love that they had to kind of find their way back together. And I love the idea that the entire film is really about protecting a Black son. You know, I've done a lot of material around kind of the value of Black life and sort of the vulnerability of Black parenting and Black motherhood in particular. I feel like we've seen lots of films where there's like 17 men all trying to rescue one little white girl. And I thought, oh, how wonderful that this film is about protecting and saving a Black boy. When Omar Sy came on board, I also really loved the idea of this Black family existing in a global environment, right? Like thinking about Blackness outside of the box of African-American identity, but really thinking about the diaspora of Blackness and sort of Black people that live in France and Black people that live in the US and all over the world and working in these kind of global spy operating systems. What Shadow Force is really about is about a couple that are international spies, and they kind of escape the unit that they're a part of, and they get in a lot of trouble for escaping the unit, for going AWOL. And when they disappear, they realize that they're not able to really be undercover because the rest of the shadows are looking for them. So they make the decision to have Isaac raise their child, and Kyra will go undercover and try to protect the family. And the film kind of picks up years into that separation as we're trying to make sense of it and trying to survive and trying to stay alive in the face of this extraordinary danger. I just want to say Mark Strong is an extraordinary actor. I love working with him, kind of an arch stereotypical bad guy. I think Joe's done a beautiful job nuancing this character, but then Mark Strong came in and just, you know, increased the value of this character by tenfold. The remaining shadows are this fantastic team of actors that we've all just so fallen for each other here in Colombia, spending time together. And I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to even be on the periphery of the Shadow Force family, because obviously we've left it. But when we're off camera, we're still very much a family. Jaleel came in and read, and we were done. There was no doubt in our minds that he was the kid. I think Joe cried twice in Jaleel's audition. And he was just so present, and he had great instincts about the character, and working with him has been a dream. You know, one of my favorite things about working with kids is that they remind you to be free, to be playful, and as an actor, that's so important. There's so much diversity here in Colombia, and our crew is incredibly diverse. In front of the camera, the cast, and behind the camera, the crew. You know, at any time on set, you're hearing at least 3 languages, because there's a bunch of people speaking French, there's a bunch of people speaking Spanish, there's a bunch of people speaking English. Even in our fighting styles, right? Like, we've been really careful and done a lot of work with our fight coordinators and our stunt coordinators to make sure that even our fighting represents martial arts from all over the world. Joe is like the most excited kid on the playground at the coolest playground in the world. He comes at it with very little ego. He wants to serve the film, but he also is able to have immense leadership, right? So that is such a wonderful balance for a director to bring to set, to be willing to stand in your authority and make the tough calls and execute the tough decisions. Like he does all of that, but he does it with this kind of open heart and willingness to collaborate and a desire to do what's right for the film, not for his ego, not for his singular vision, but for this film that we're all making together. For me to get excited about the material, I need to feel like I'm telling some truth about humanity. So as wild and outrageous the action sequences are, we're also talking about real emotional feelings and vulnerabilities. We're talking about love and intimacy and family and what it means to be in partnership, what compromise looks like, what sacrifice looks like, and what you're willing to do for the people that you love in order to be together against all odds. And there's something, uniquely Black about that. Such a big part of the diaspora experience is the breaking up of Black families across continents or within continents. This kind of strategic idea of not allowing Black families to exist together as families. There's something about that lives really subconsciously in the material because we are fighting for our family and doing the unimaginable in order to be together and to protect our son.